Granite Falls Historical Society, Part 2. It's a visit with a person of high strangeness. Today is part number 2, where Mike Johns takes you to the museum in Granite Falls, and he had a lot more footage than we thought he did, so we were able to put it in 2 for you, and so we will do sort of basically same thing we did in part 1. We show some photographs and things, and so go right along with Mike Johns. Granite Falls Historical Museum in Granite Falls, Washington, and they are open from, do you know? I'm talking to Mike Johns here. Do you know when they open?
Okay, they're open by appointment. You call them and they'll come. If not, they'll make an appointment with you, and they're very jolly on the spot to help. Okay,
so what we're going to do is we're going to show some pictures and then eventually go into your walkabout in the museum, huh?
Sounds good.
We are now upstairs. In the museum, that is. I don't have an upstairs. Oh, can you believe if I had an upstairs, I could never go home, could I?
No, you could.
I can't even crawl in the front door on a straight line. Eventually, the gentleman is telling a story, but then our tape runs out. So can you tell us a little bit what you told me about that particular Purple Heart?
Yes. During World War I, they didn't have a medal that they gave people. In this particular picture, a member of the family had it. It was handed down to them, and a mouse had gotten in and eaten the bottom of it. And Fred Krueger recreated it.
Yeah, Fred Krueger is the name of the gentleman, the narrator of the museum.
Yes. And
not that Freddy Krueger. Fred Krueger.
Fred Krueger, yes.
I liked how he pointed it out to you, so he must get that all the time, huh?
Yes. I'm not sure. He's a pretty jolly person, but he's big and husky.
So was Freddy. Okay. This is, I was going to say something, changed my mind.
They didn't used to give a medal, so they gave this particular picture instead of a medal, and it was for bravery in action and wounded. And it was quite different, and it was very informative the way that Fred gave it. And he recreated it for the person, gave them a copy of it, and they were very, very happy.
The music you're hearing is by Tom Brame. Okay, now in the back here, tell me about this contraption here, please.
Yes, this is a contraption. You look at it and you think, aha, this is an outhouse. It's not. And what it is it's a... they disassembled it and brought it in. It was from a local person that was there. And it's used to smoke meat.
It's a meat smoker disguised as and something else. And this gentleman is a little fuzzy, but he's been in that museum for an awful long time. So I would be fuzzy too. You suppose how much they wanted for gas when that was a gas pump?
Yes. Yes.
What, a nickel?
It was a nickel, and then Fred was explaining that with our current taxes, it's up to where it originally was back then.
How does that come out? No, my question was how much you suppose the gas was back then when they had that contraption. And then you said, Fred said that with the taxes it would be now what it is now?
Yes.
Explain.
Yeah, well, he was talking about the current price of gasoline with the current price of...
Oh, equal.
Equal, yes.
Oh,
ma'am.
okay, I was going to say now, wait just a minute here. Yeah, I guess if you made a nickel an hour,
Yeah.
it could have been a nickel an
It
hour.
would have been a nickel an hour.
Yeah. Yeah, try to fill up that baby. Yeah, you had to be economically stable back then. Look at that pretty lady. And last week we looked at some of the radios, so we excuse me, God, I can talk. We are revisiting. I can't talk, it's been such a long day, you know.
It has.
The Pride with a crow. What is it, Mike? Oops.
Well, the Pride was a mine that was up near Silverton, and it's just a recreation that's in the museum, and it's to give you an outlook of what the miners would enter into.
Mm-hmm. Here's some minerals. I take it they came out of that mine? Out of one of the mines?
That's what I thought when I first looked at it, but this is Indian hieroglyphs, different stones and things that they found through the diggings and different things that they've done up there.
Yeah, actually there's a Native American lady. Yeah. And this is stuff, washboard and all the things a lady needed. And if the price of electricity doesn't go down, I'm getting ready to get me a tub and a washboard and a cast iron frying pan and cook on sticks. As the show goes on, the gentleman, Fred, is going to tell you a story about the lady that donated some of these clothes. Isn't that pretty?
It's very pretty, and plus in the left-hand corner there is
Pretty, huh?
yes, and in the left-hand corner there's a person used to do hair braiding, and that's what's in that that picture frame to the left right there.
That's too little. I can't blow that up. I'm sorry, but I see an old sewing machine.
Sewing machine, yes.
Last week we told you about the man that made shakes, and I thought it was a milkshake, but Mike explained that really good. So there's more stuff. It's a shake. It's a shingle for the roof. For your roof. Nah?
Yes, it is. It's a shingle cutter, and this is the backside looking in.
And this here is part of the doctor's office. You see the oxygen tank? Ooh. Wow. These are liniments and things. When we were at the Tornado museum, they actually still had stuff in it. I don't know, maybe it was not, maybe it was in Florence, but one of the places I went to, they still had the tinctures, you call that?
Yes, the different cures that they had then.
Yeah, that was still in there, so anyway. Maybe not here. Oops, well I checked and they empty. So this is the hardware store. What's the story in the hardware store?
Well, this was part of the hardware store that was in Granite Falls. Granite Falls had one of the first hardware stores that were there. And the miners used to come down and order things, and it was quite interesting.
Last week Mike was trying to tell us it was north and south. So is this in the front or the back, Mike?
This is in the front of the museum. And this is it's a picture of the generator wheel where the water would come up and hit it, and it would spin, and it would create its own generator. So up in Silverton and above there, they were self-sufficient. They didn't rely on anyone, especially on the town of Granite Falls, for their electricity.
All right. What a concept. Here we have roadies. We explained last week how come 2005 is on your pictures. You want to refresh our memory, please?
Yes, it's an error on my part. It has to do with the camera. You have to adjust the time and the date specifically on the camera, and I haven't done that yet.
And I don't know how to take it off. So.
No, we need to look at the manual and...
Yeah, no, I see roadies there. What time of the year did you film that?
This was recently. What
is this here? September.
September, yes.
Today is 9/11.
Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah, it's 9/11.
Oh.
So a couple of weeks ago, maybe, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, 9/11, 2009.
Yes.
This is the front of the museum. Well, I can see why you have to make an appointment. Looks like a residential area. Is it in a house?
It's in a house, and it's very well taken care of. There's good parking for anyone that comes, and was one small building, and now there's a bigger one that houses all the different things, like Fred was talking about, our curator of the museum.
This is the front of the museum, and the bird you're hearing is my sidekick with earthquake notification. I think what I was trying to ask you earlier, is it in a residential area? Is it downtown? What part of town is it in?
It's in a residential area of town, and it's very nice, and people they take very good care of it, and it's well maintained and well kept up, and if it wasn't for the donations of the people, and also from families and businesses that are there, there is a lot of historical data.
Yeah, well, on last week's show, Fred explained how the museum came about. So I'm just trying to recap that a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm getting old, Mike.
Oh, I'm getting older too.
Yeah. Are you 2 months older than me?
I wish I was.
What you mean you wish you was? You're right. I'm older than you.
Yes. Yeah, my...
Okay, nobody hurt my feelings, so it doesn't matter. That's right. We had, yeah. But you're never too old or too young to date, to dance, to whatever.
To experience life.
And so I tell you what we're gonna do. We're gonna go into the footage that you brought back, and we're going to play some of that, and then that'll give an idea where they had started out last week. They meaning the viewers.
Yes, where they got to see all the different things that were just about to happen.
Yeah. I'm refresh your memory. 2 gentlemen in front of everything.
Yeah, those 2 gentlemen were working, trying to work, and one liked to talk, and the other one was trying to help.
Yeah. Let's put that in here. When people, when anybody films and sends me footage,
yes,
it would be helpful if you have to be in a picture. Would be helpful if you was on the other side of what you're trying to show me.
That's right.
Yeah.
That way, it's not being blocked.
That's
so
a good word. Yeah.
Blocked, or
yeah.
Or the picture is not enhanced by two bodies, and your
two bodies.
and your cameraman doesn't. He was making a lot of faces as he was trying to film.
Yeah,
so,
don't insult the cameraman. He'll
no,
never go
I'll
with you
never do
anymore.
that.
He won't go with you anymore.
Don't want to do that.
Yeah, and cameraman was
Matt
Johns. Yeah. And he's been helping out a lot, so I think that's really, really wonderful. But you know, the footage and the story was so good, we didn't want to change. We're not going to change anything. We're just going to make it live TV, and this is how it was, and this is what you get. And we're getting ready to go to your footage now, huh?
Yes, we are. We're going to work with it and
enjoy,
and our producer is going to produce it.
That's it. No, actually, I'm going to show you how to do it, so you know how complicated it is to clean it up.
Oh, that's right. Oh boy.
So enjoy part 2 of Granite Falls Historical Society. Museum. All right.
We have a lot of school kids at this museum, and they've never seen a circular dial telephone, let alone a telegraph. So we put this in place just to show people what it was like communication back in the early days. It's actually a practice machine. That's a machine that was created specifically to allow telegraph operators to learn how to operate. We actually have keys here we let the kids try out. They can try that one, or they can try a higher speed bug.
I guess so.
And if you've ever spent any time working a telegraph, and I've spent hundreds of hours, this gets very tiresome.
Oh, yes,
talk about being able to induce carpal tunnel syndrome. That's it. That's why they went to a mechanical key like this that can generate automatic dots in one direction while you do dashes manually in the other. But it's a side-to-side motion that's far easier on your wrist. And in the latter days, we went to electronic keys. We disable the spring, generate dots in one direction, automatic dashes in the other, dash, 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 so it was all done electronically. But communication for the railroad was a big deal.
Oh, yes, it was.
And this is one of the more unique pieces they used. There was no telephone, there was no radio, and if you wanted to pass a message to the locomotive engineer and the train wasn't planning on stopping, you put the note in the string, you put the string through the 2 grooves in this clip, and you stood out next to the track and you held it out as the train went by, and the engineer would hold his arm out the window, go through the loop, and he'd end up with the message on his arm so they could unroll it, and it said, "Bridge out ahead, come to a stop."
I'm sorry, this is Mike with Fred, and for a visit with the person of high strangeness. Miss Lillian, this is the second part. I apologize we didn't start out with your introduction on your show, but we're learning a lot of things here, especially with the historical Granite Falls, and hopefully we can do other cities around, like Arlington, Marysville, Snohomish, other areas that are around us. And now we're back to Fred. Excuse me. Okay, Fred. Thank you.
Well, you know, this is our railroad area. We have everything from old devices here, railroad police handcuffs, emblems off different cars, oil cans, insulators. And this is what we call the speeder. You know, we looked earlier at that hand-powered velocipede. This is the later model speeder. 2-cycle engine. You crank it like an old car, but you crank it from the side in this case. And it's a 2-cycle engine, so it runs equally well in either direction. So if you want to go that way, you crank it clockwise. If you want to go the other way, you crank it counterclockwise. Top dead center is determined by the timing control right there, so spark advance either way. So you didn't have to take it off the track and turn it around in order to go in the other direction. You just stop the engine, crank it the other way, and away you went.
Oh, that's fantastic. There's a lot of history here.
Oh, tremendous amount of history. I mentioned earlier that the original owners of the small house that we have here, she was a milliner.
Yes.
And she was the great aunt, and her husband was the great uncle. of this gentleman right here, named Bob Miller, who's one of our museum members. He retired as a locomotive engineer some years ago. His dad was a locomotive engineer, and his dad before him was a locomotive engineer.
Oh my goodness, so they saw a lot of Granite Falls building up in Monte Cristo. They were part of that.
They saw all the logging industry. They worked for the logging companies and Bob traveled this part of the country on a locomotive.
Oh, that's fantastic.
You know, the train originally came through Granite Falls on its way to Monte Cristo to get gold. Monte Cristo is about 35 miles east of here in the hills, and it sits down at the bottom of some towering mountains, really.
Yes.
And of course, as luck would always have it, the really good producing mines weren't down here.
They were up here.
They're up here. And that's why you see a lot of remnants up there today of the tram towers that were used to carry the ore down from the mines to the processing that could be done down below. This is a typical ore car. It was a two-cable system, if you will. There was a fixed cable that ran along the top of the towers, and the pulleys ran along that. And then there was one continuous loop of cable that went from the bottom to the top, and you had a lever here on this that would allow you to engage a cable that ran through here. And that was that movable loop. So the way it worked is that when you fill this up with ore, you would clamp this down on the cable, and this heavy ore bucket would pull the empties back up.
Now, isn't that interesting? Because I always, I was told ever since I have been here, I've been here for maybe 24 years, and they told me that Monte Cristo was a silver mine, not a gold mine.
Oh, gold.
It was gold?
But they had everything. They had arsenic, silver, gold, but it was there primarily for the gold. That was by far and away their intent was gold. Now, Silverton, which is
Up farther.
well, actually, it's on this side of Monte Cristo by about 8 to 10 miles. They had a little higher concentration of silver there, but likewise, they were trying to get anything they could out of the ground. But it was definitely a gold town.
Oh, it was a gold town. Now,
Yeah.
wasn't there a hotel up there
Multiple
somewhere?
hotels.
That,
Multiple hotels when the
multiple-
town was active. Later on, one of the Boston American mine had a very large mess hall, if you will, and one of their buildings became a hotel that was used even in the modern times in the 50s. It was used as a tourist hotel. You could go up there and back and stay up there.
yes.
Sort of a bed and breakfast, if you will. But it's all gone now. The only thing original that's really left in Monte Cristo that you can still identify, we can see in some of these pictures here. This is a series of pictures. The first picture here shows Monte Cristo in its heyday, about 1894. That's a year after the railroad got there. And you can see, if you were to walk into Monte Cristo today on the main trail, you're walking right along the railroad bed that came in right here in the picture. Then there was a switchback that came up here and back around, and it wound around in front of the big concentrator. And that's where they got the ore out, so that the ore cars would line up here, they come down here, and out. The only two things you can find out that today from the original things are that rock. That rock is still there. Here it is 55 years later, 1949, and here it is 55 years later, 2004. And the railroad turntable. It was such a huge girder that when they picked up everything else, it was too big to take out. And you can still move the railroad turntable to this day.
I'll be darned.
But everything else up in there is, been built. What is there has been built since the town, really. Everything has collapsed. You can see, here's a picture of the Penn mine at Goat Lake, just on the other side of the hill from Monte Cristo. Look at the buildings on the side of that hill.
Oh my goodness.
The only thing I can think of when I look at pictures, here's Del Campo. If you look at the picture of the Del Campo mine here, the only thing I can say is if you had to get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, you wanted to make sure you went out the right door.
Oh, I guess so. I used to thin for the forestry up there on Blue Mountain, and we had a crew, and one of them had a little bit too much to drink, and he stepped out, and he was gone. He broke his leg.
When the lumber companies, the logging companies, the Rucker brothers, bought the railroad about 1920, They bought up from the Northern Pacific.
Yes.
Their intent was obviously to haul out wood. But the first thing they built was a beautiful tourist hotel called Big 4 Inn.
Yes.
And you can see in this picture, you've got a huge hotel. They've got cabins here that have stone fireplaces. And on the other side, they had a big quadrangle of hard base tent cabins. It was a beautiful place. The railroad took you up, dropped you right off at the front door. And here it's a couple of years later, when they picked up the rails in 1935 and 6. After that, you see people driving up to the same spot. The only thing left of that place today is the fireplace is still there, burned down in 1949.
Oh,
Completely gone.
Such a
Burned.
loss.
But it was a beautiful spot. And you can see their spring opening. They still had 10 to 12 feet of snow in places.
Oh,
And
ice caves.
That's the access to the ice caves even today. You park here, you get out, you walk past the fireplace, and you go up. It's about a 1 mile walk up to the ice caves.
Yeah, I've been up to the ice caves. They've got a new walkway that they made with aluminum.
Oh, across the river there?
Across the river, yeah.
It washed out about 2 years ago. The new bridge just opened up about a month ago. It just reopened. As I said, here's the gas-powered cars on the turntable at Monte Cristo. The turntable's still there. You can still turn.
And here the trestle collapsed.
Yeah, you know, over the years, things just
They fall to pieces,
fall
you
to
know.
pieces. Tremendous winters up there. You know, tremendous snow load, vicious winter. So without maintenance, nothing will survive.
Okay.
You know, the mines up there almost all were powered with a Pelton wheel. This is
Oh,
a
this is
special
what
design.
this is called, a Pelton.
A Pelton wheel, and it's specially designed. They would run a line up to the mountain as high as they could get to build up a big pressure head. Run the line into a high pressure cast iron nozzle like this, has a very small opening,
Yes.
and it would hit these cups right in the center. And those were specially designed to give a very high efficiency, a very high energy transfer. So the belt that went on this pulley would drive a compressor to operate a pneumatic drill, or a generator to operate the electric lights. in the
Oh, so
mine.
they were self-sufficient.
Absolutely.
They didn't have to rely on any of the energy coming from,
There was none.
yeah, from anywhere.
Yep. And today you can go up on the mountainsides, and there are a number of old four-cylinder internal combustion engines that were taken out of automobiles that were used to power pumps and mines hauled up the side of a mountain. You know, they used everything they could. But early on, it was all hydropower. There's still one of these standing up in the Salton Basin. It's about a 10 to 12 foot diameter. It's a huge one. And we have about a 5.5 foot one out front of the museum.
Yeah, I saw that. I took one picture of it.
Yep.
Oh, and here they're,
Here are folks exploring the mines. Those are actually the mines up in Monte Cristo, up on the side of the hill. These are a couple of two-legged mountain goats that like to go in places like that and take pictures. And you can see that's inside the mine. There's still lots of artifacts around, and there's still lots of poles holding up rock that otherwise would have come down by now. So, dangerous place to be. But you'll see a lot of tracks.
oh, that's interesting. Personally, I get claustrophobic, so I can't,
Well, I tell you, it's a climb just to get up to the opening. You know, if you've made it to the mine attic, the opening, you've made it a long ways already.
oh my goodness.
We actually have a pick head here that we had on the pick, but we decided to put it in the cabinet. If you pick it up and look closely at it, it says E&MC Railway on it, the Everett and Monte Cristo Railway. Which was
And this, they have the Pride up here, and this is supposed to be an opening to
that's a mine attic.
shaft?
Yep, that is a mine attic. And the Pride was one of the mines up on the hill above Monte Cristo. See, those are old dynamite boxes, an old Ford from a mine up above Silverton. Mine car rail in there. Mine car rail was just like railroad car rail, except smaller and lighter.
Oh my goodness. Let's look over here. Yeah, we have
In about 1910, Frank Ash quit school, and he was going to start a bicycle repair shop.
Now this is Frank Ash.
Frank Ash. And he quit school. He was about 16, I think. Within a year, he realized bicycles wasn't where it was at, with motorcycles. And you can see we have a picture of his original shop with a whole bunch of Excelsior motorcycles in the window right there, though you're looking in his motorcycle shop. And that's actually Frank hidden behind the sill in the window there.
He's back there.
Yeah. But that's also him in the left in this picture up above with motorcycles.
Oh, up here. Yeah.
Over the years, they started selling automobiles, and as we entered this area, you may not have noticed, but there was a sign over top of the garage that looked just like this. It said City Cyclery Garage Ford Motor Cars. That's copied directly from the original sign that hung on the building out on Stanley Street. They sold Model Ts and Excelsior motorcycles. Later on, they sold General Motors cars, and GM told them they had to make a decision. They couldn't sell GM and Ford at the same time. So they specialized in GMC trucks and Oldsmobiles. He and his brother had joined the business by that point in time. So this was an advertising vehicle that for years said on the front of it, Ash Brothers Oldsmobile.
Tell us about this again.
That's a 1904 Oldsmobile, all original. A one-cylinder, 8 horsepower engine. You can either stand next to it or sit on the seat on the right and crank it. It is the car that very famous song in My Merry Oldsmobile was written about. Have you heard that song?
Yes, I have.
Well, it was written about in 1904 Oldsmobile. They called it a curved dash Oldsmobile for obvious reasons. This car has been restored. It's got all new gears in the transmission. It's ready to run.
Oh, well, the fender is quite a bit different. It bows in instead of out.
Well, the idea was to deflect things away from the passenger and the driver.
Well, I understand.
But to be honest with you, since I operate vehicles of this vintage, the only reason for the body on this car is to protect the driver from the oil spray. They're not very clean to operate. We were very fortunate. We had the original fenders on this car, but they had been so rusted, there were spots where the air showed through. And I was at a swap meet in Oklahoma a few years ago, walked in, and here were 4 fenders laying on the ground. I said, those look like Model N Ford or Oldsmobile. He said, they came off in 1904 Olds. I said, well, how much do you want for them? He said, $40. I said, each? He said, no, for all of them.
Dug in your pocket.
I didn't even have it in me to borrow. You can see they're in great shape. So we just bolted them right up in this car, and we had the car ready to go.
Oh, look at this. Gas, 13 and 8/10, and tax 4 cents, 17.
17.8 a gallon.
8 a gallon.
Gas is still the same price today. It's just the tax is $2.20 a gallon.
Yeah, that's right.
Actually, that's modeled after their garage. We have a picture of their garage in later days. They had that type of pump. They had that type of top on it. It's a lighted top, says gasoline, and had a red crown sticker, just like we have on the front of that pump. So we did this up. We did this to sort of commemorate the Ash brothers, and it was Frank's daughter who gave us this car some years ago for the museum.
Oh, this is fantastic. Now, here we were talking earlier about, if you could explain what this is, Fred.
This is an actual working model built by a gentleman named Leroy Johnston of the biggest steam-powered logging machine ever built, called a Lidgerwood. This machine actually operates. You can simultaneously skid logs out of the woods while another engineer is operating loading logs onto a train.
Okay,
So,
let's define skid logs. We're talking about setting cables around the logs.
Exactly, and you can see this one here is rigged, although it's sagged now. This log is rigged, ready to be hauled in. It's got a choker on the log. He's hooked up, and if this cable were pulled in, it would skid that log along the ground into a pile here. They pull it in just to be within reach of that loader. So a train would pull up with many, many cars, empty log cars on it, and back underneath that Lidgerwood. And then he'd simply pull forward one car at a time while they loaded it. And when the last car was loaded, they were done and they were out of there. And then another locomotive would come in. If they were done logging that area, they would come in and they'd pick up that machine, jack it up, pull the braces out from underneath it, move it to another spot, and log off another area. This was done, obviously, to avoid the use of that spar tree we saw in the other room.
Yes.
You know, in this particular case, they can lower that tower, and they can do all the rigging on the ground, and then stand the tower up, as opposed to having to haul all that heavy blocks up the, up the spar tree.
Oh, that is a lifesaver.
And it's actually rigged, if you notice on this, you have two sets of pulleys, because you want it to be able to log off both sides. So you want, be able to log off this side of the track. And log
So
off
that's
the
why
other
they
side of
have
the
two
track.
people running it, one on one side and one on the other?
No, they actually had two people, because one guy was skidding logs while the other guy was loading logs.
Oh, I see, okay.
But they had to be able to, once they erected the tower, they didn't want to take it down again to pull logs in from the other side, so they rigged two sets. Of course, in the early days, when you skidded logs, you either skidded them or you tried to pull the stumps out, and that's what these are right here, stump pullers. Now this is their rich man stump pullers, motorized. And that, of course, will run fine. The stump puller itself was made by a company in Everett. That's a Stover engine. It's meant to be anchored to the strongest thing you've got, which is probably the biggest stump. And you run the cable out and you simply pull the other stumps out of the ground with it. It's geared down to just let you pull very slowly. This was an earlier version. You would put a huge timber in here, as long a timber as you could get, and you'd take your horse or team of horses and hook them to the end of the timber and have them walk in a circle. And this would turn slowly. You can see the ratchet here.
Oh, yes.
You can hear click, click, click. There's a ratchet working here. And every time the horse would come around to the cable that you're pulling the stump with, the horse would have to step over the cable, go around in a circle again, and gradually you could pull virtually anything you wanted out of the ground.
Oh, my goodness.
This is a release to be able to turn it, position where needed.
Oh, that's just... Can you imagine the time? And, oh, jeez.
But the alternative was unthinkable.
You got dynamite.
This is a drag saw, again, in very good running condition. Once you had a log on the ground, a saw like
What was it called again?
a drag saw. And it's primarily because you would drag it into position. It's got a wheel on this end. You put the handles up on the log. You would spike, they're spiked in fact. You can see these swivel. Spike those into the tree. The blade sits here. You lay the blade on top, start the engine, and in about a minute and a half or so, depending on the size of the log, it would cut a slice. You move the saw over, spike those in again, cut another slice off.
Oh, my goodness.
We don't do as much heavy logging as we used to. We don't do as much heavy milling as we used to. This is the place here in Granite Falls that takes flat steel plate and converts it into round tubing. That tube you see right there is 66 feet long, made out of 2-inch steel, weighs 77,000 pounds. It has 3-inch carbide teeth welded all around the far end of it, and it's a concrete form that went down to Everett. To Seattle. They stand it on end, they saw it into the bedrock like a big hole saw with those carbide teeth. They fill it with concrete, and it's holding up Seattle like rail.
Oh, my goodness.
Now, they make everything from huge tubes like that to small tubes. The beginning of this little repeating film shows them rolling 1 1/4-inch hardened steel plate into a 30-inch diameter for a piston on a shock absorber for a ferry dock.
Oh, my goodness.
And it's amazing the power in the rollers, because you think about rolling 1 1/4-inch steel into a 30-inch diameter, it seems inconceivable that it could actually be done.
Oh, my goodness.
That's my pet possum. He sleeps on his back and snores. He passed away last year.
And we have dresses here. Now, the viewers that we have are interested in dresses and hats and things like that also, because we have a lot of ladies that watch the show, and young ladies, and they like looking at things that are... The old styles are coming back,
Well,
believe it or not.
The only thing I think that will never come back are shoes of this type. Because if you look at those shoes, you had about a 45-minute commitment before you could leave after you started putting
That's
shoes
right,
on.
put on those shoes, 45 minutes.
There's a lot of lacing to be done, or in case of the one in back, you see button hook you had to use. But these are vintage dresses. In fact, if you look closely, the one closest to you has a picture of the lady from Granite Falls who actually made this lace neckwear right here. That's a picture of
Alice Charles Dobbs
Dobbs.
made this lace.
That's a picture of her wearing that lace.
Oh, Alice did wonderful.
But you can see, even when they're going out for recreational purposes, here's a picture of a picnic group.
Yeah, here.
Notice the wheels in that picture? You can tell where they are. Those are railroad wheels on a hand car.
Oh my
They're
goodness.
sitting in Tunnel 6 and you're looking at Tunnel 5 in the distance. Those two tunnels are really close together up in Road Valley.
Oh
So
my
they were
goodness.
out on an excursion just to have a picnic, and you can see how nicely they all dressed. They're pumping a hand car. Or in this picture, this is the other Granite Falls picture here of folks out on Sunday afternoon and talk about hats.
Boy, look at those old hats. Oh, Miss Lillian, look at this. Oh, this is... And the gentleman's hats.
Oh, yeah.
Those are quite... What does he have in his hand? This gentleman, this last one.
I'm not really sure. You know, when I originally looked at the picture, I thought he was holding a gun, and I said, no, it's some sort of, it's two sticks. I don't know what it was intended for. It's a folding walking stick.
Maybe it's a folding walking stick, huh? Like you were saying. That's interesting.
In the beginning, this is that beginning of that film again. He starts out with a flat piece of steel, and they're going to roll it into a diameter. It's just a little bit bigger than the roller.
Oh my goodness. Okay, let's...
So we have this is a pretty high-tech museum. We have a meeting room here. We have PCs set up there. People come if to hold a meeting. They'll hold a meeting here, and they can plug their PC in, and we have a projector that allows them to use that screen, so you can share your PC with everybody in the room.
Oh, that's nice.
Or I have to admit to occasionally watching a good videotape here on a 10-foot screen. Now, if we had cable TV, the football game would be it.
Oh, that would be it. Oh, where's the Purple Heart?
Oh, upstairs.
Upstairs.
All right. We recently put together a display here to honor the military folks and the folks from Granite Falls. And this display, this poster in the middle here is actually a replica. It's a copy of a certificate one of our members had. His dad got in World War I. It was given out in terms of a Purple Heart. They didn't have a Purple Heart thing. Unfortunately, when he opened it up and gave it to us, a mouse had completely consumed the lower section down here. His dad's name, the served with honor and was wounded part, and part of this gentleman's leg. Fortunately, computer technology allows us to repair things like that, so it's now flawless again. This uniform, we advertised for a ladies' uniform. We said, you know, we have a number of men's uniforms, but we have no women's uniforms. I got a call one evening from a lady that said she had her World War II Coast Guard uniform and would be happy to have it on display. I asked if she wanted to bring it to the museum or should I pick it up. She said, well, I'd appreciate if you picked it up, she said, because ever since I turned 102, my knee has been bothering me. We went and saw the lady. She's an absolutely fantastic lady to talk to, tremendous sense of humor, and she was getting around quite well. She wasn't using a walker, but she just said her knee was bothering her since she had turned 102.
Oh my goodness. And then we have the World War I think it is.
Yep.
And then this is World War II,
Yep.
Army and Navy. And here's a Marine.
Marine uniform. Oh.
Oh, excuse me.
So we actually had this Ground Observer Corps posted here to honor the ladies in town that served duty in the Ground Observer Corps in Granite Falls. Right after our new city hall was built, our current city hall, we call it our new city hall, was built in 1942. They built the lookout on top to keep watch for enemy airplanes. And it was activated twice, again during the Korean War and when we felt there was a big Russian threat. We have the original certificates downstairs.
Oh, this is quite interesting.
They kept the logbook. We have the names of several ladies that are still around that served on 24-hour watch on top of City Hall.
Okay.
So Mike, now that you helped with both of your shows, what's your verdict?
I think they were well put together, and I liked the contents of what we did. The historical background, Monte Cristo, and up to Silverton, and like I was talking to Fred about, a lot of the I was told when I first came to Granite Falls in the 70s, late 70s, that they were mining for just silver up there, but then he explained to me that it was gold, mostly gold up there, and I thought that was very interesting. And the historical mines that are still up there, the ice caves, and the different scenery things that were there.
Well, I was kind of thinking in terms of technical here. It's your first time where you done the whole thing. I mean,
yes, with quite a bit of help, but I'm learning to put the shows together and to use the remote a lot.
now as a person sending footage, do you have a better understanding of what it is I need?
Yes, I do. Yes. The footage that you need is people not standing in the way, not blocked, exact footage, and it takes an understanding to do that.
Did that make you? Oh, gee, we are so exhausted. It's like almost about 3 o'clock in the morning. But here's the thing: when we talk on the phone or when we talk, were you able to visualize what I was trying to tell you?
Not completely, but when I came to visit you, just going through tonight, that was hands-on, and that's a lot more to me to visualize something like that. You don't really comprehend it until you do the hands-on with it.
Hands-on, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but I appreciate you hanging with me so you could see how it goes from one end to the other. You've been in the studio, you've seen that from beginning to end, so but we're doing it a little different, so I will thank you for that, my friend.
Well, you're quite welcome, and I'm glad to be here to learn. Have that open mind, and
yeah. So you keep sending us stuff, huh?
Well, that's going to happen. That's going to happen, and love and light. Imagine that. In 2009, we didn't go on a trip at all, but we were lucky, and the friends went places and they sent footage and told us stories, so it came out pretty good anyway. And hope you enjoyed their 2-part series about the Granite Falls Museum. It's a time that I'm taping this part here because, see, I just came back, I have butterflies on my chest. I just came back from filming the Monarch Sculpture Park. And so what happens is, I don't know how much time we have left. If we do, before Randy sings us out, I'll find you some pretty music. And I'll see you next week. Bye. And so I'm going to let you listen to that for a while and enjoy.
Fire. Just put your boom boom outside. Erika, why you got to push your boom boom outside? I do one play more, do say I'm one play more. Oh darling, I love you. Oh darling, I really love you. I do one play more, do say I'm one play more. Oh darling, I love you. Oh darling, I really love you. Kika, why you got to push your boom boom outside? Girl, you push your boom boom outside. Yes, you put your boom boom outside. Erika, put you, can't take it in there.
Randy working on the new version of Lillian Miss Lillian. Cool, huh?
Lillian, Miss Lillian, we'd like to thank you for all the fun. Took us there, and you took us there, and it is just because you really care. Where our journey goes, oh, it begins. It's part of why our planet will extend. And if we do our part and use our heart, we'll fulfill our mission we've had from the start. Lillian, Miss Lillian, we'd like to thank you for all the fun while you took us here and you took us there. And it is just because you really care. You really care.
Thank you.